What happened was.
Hey friends, it's so nice to see you. It's today, the time is now. You are here and the weather is outside your window.
Today's guest is the founder of 1812 Productions in Philadelphia, a comedy queen here to tell us about her new production, 2 out of 3, which you can stream worldwide. Please welcome Jennifer Childs.
Hey, how are ya?
Good. How are you?
Living the dream.
Oh, we
Living the
all are,
dream.
aren't we? It's that optimism of artists that I adore,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy to meet you, and thank you to Brian Butler for putting us together. I was doing some research on you, and I read the most beautiful thing that you were talking about how you founded this company and why it was called 1812, and of course, it was the address that you were creating at, and it said that it was a time and place where there was basically no money, right? And so you were creating because you had to, and out of nothing, and it was
Yep.
so beautiful and something I believe in so greatly. So I knew we would have a good
Thank you.
time. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. No, I remember so very clearly, like we were so broke. I think my rent at the time was like $165 a month.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean the apartment was huge and the had been passed through so many hands. Nobody knew how much space there was. But we didn't have cable. So of course at the time if you didn't have cable, you didn't have TV. And so we would read to each other. It was so Little House on the Prairie. It was like we would open a Kurt Vonnegut book and each one of us would take a chapter and drink cheap wine and pass it around. So, yeah.
Uh,
It was a very specific time in life. So,
Yeah, yeah. I had kind of it reminded me of a time in my life where I was creating opera with some friends, and we had this warehouse on the far, far, far Upper West Side, like 52nd and 11th, not even Upper West. And there were rats and pigeons, and there was a guy who slept on a cot in the building, but we just got together and literally were like making things out of cardboard sometimes. So people showed up and it was special. And
yeah.
yeah, I find sometimes you see things that okay, that's a Broadway show. It costs $30 million. And you're like, where did the money go? This is
Yeah.
terrible.
No, it's very true. And I think, and I don't know whether it was defined by that time or not, but even the work that I make now, like I find limitations really awesome because
Yes,
they force you to be creative.
yes.
And I think some of the worst work I've ever made is like, you have as much money as you want, do whatever, in some ways
Yeah,
it's like those boundaries are really helpful.
I completely relate to that. Yeah, I love a challenge.
Yeah.
It's
Indeed, indeed.
exciting. So how has the last year and a half been for you with the pandemic?
It has been, it's been busy. It's been really, really busy, actually. The company that I run, 1812, like I said, we do all comedy, but we did a full season.
Wow.
It was all online. And I have to say, as a comic, as somebody who thrives on audience interaction and laughs, that was the hardest. That has been the hardest part. The challenge of like, okay, how do we create work for this new format that we have, and how do we still acknowledge and involve the audience in some way? That really jazzed me to kind of rise to that challenge. But doing comedy every night, even though the audience was live and not, they always say like, nobody ever really says this. I say this. If a tree falls if a joke gets told in the forest and no one's there to laugh, is it funny? And it's like, that's it was really lonely feeling.
Sure, of course, of
Yeah.
course. And timing is so important, and that rapport with the audience and letting laughter cycle into the timing.
Yeah,
And yeah,
totally.
so how do you navigate around that? And
Totally.
yeah,
No, and also just the limitations of Zoom in terms of you talk about timing and you're a musician. Comedy especially is a piece of music,
yes.
and I found doing things over Zoom. There's times where it's like, oh, if it misses and you talk on top of each other, and so
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. yeah, it's incredibly difficult. And yeah, at the same time, it was such a community building thing that we could all turn to Zoom and meet and create. And, it was tough, but there were people out there that needed it.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. And who I think, especially those, a lot of our older audience members as well have reached out to say, I hope this is something you keep doing
Yeah.
because I feel close to you in this
Yes.
way. Yeah,
Yes. I think it's opened a door and allowed access to the behind the scenes in a weird way.
yeah,
And people do know us better now. And
yeah.
I think that's good for the arts because
Thank
there's
you.
more intrigue and wonder.
Yeah.
I think that's
More
really
intrigue and wonder. Man, that's what the world needs, isn't it?
yes. I'm going to tell you a secret. I just put up my Christmas tree about a half hour ago because I needed some
What?
wonder. Yep. Yep.
I am very, very impressed. I'm like last minute Larry when it comes to that. We're
um, you
Christmas
know,
Eve.
it just the mood struck, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need. So you're opening this fabulous new show that is running in Philadelphia, but will also stream worldwide, and it's a very personal story about your family.
Yeah.
The name is 2 out of 3. Tell us about it.
I will. So my husband and I are both performers, and our daughter Lily just started college in September, and
Where?
she's going to University of Pittsburgh.
Nice.
And yes, which is Pittsburgh is a great, great city. Love it. Um, but I know somebody asked me the other day, it's like, does this show have anything to do with the pandemic? And I was like, no, but in many ways, it's our pandemic story. Like, I think
Mm,
about all of the things that happened, all these huge life events that people went through during this strange time. And I have friends who got married and had babies, and people who lost loved ones. And for us, this was kind of the story of this is our pandemic story, you know. Um, the one little sweet piece of the pandemic was that with my husband and I not working in the evenings and not performing, we got to have dinner as a family every
wow.
night, which
Wow.
never happens in theater households ever. And so we were always a really good trio. We were always really tight, but the past year really solidified that, and we had so much fun together. So
Wow.
um, saying goodbye was really hard, and like everything everything that challenges me in my life, I'm like, maybe if I make a piece about this I'll understand it a little bit better. uh, so um so yeah, so my husband and I made this piece called 2 out of 3, and we did a couple of gigs over the summer, just like a cabaret version of it, and we've dug into it a little bit more to make it a little more theatrical. um, but it's the process of two people kind of trying to figure out what their double act is after being a part of a trio for 17 years.
Yeah.
And yeah,
What is your
so
daughter studying?
she's studying psychology.
Wow, that makes sense coming from a theater
It-
house. That's,
I can't imagine why.
yes. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And can I ask, what is it like playing yourself essentially? Huh.
Yeah, that's a great question. I, you know, it's it's fun. It's fine. It's tricky to find that balance. I don't know. Um, a lot of the work that I make is very presentational, so I have a tendency to play different versions of myself and different
Hmm.
clown versions of that. But this is also a clown version of our relationship, who's the straight man and who's the comic, and so it feels very comfortable to do that. But I also realize that we need to there's that fine place where you find it where it's like people know that it's funny and are not really worried that you're fighting like that, you know. um, that's the that's the sweet spot, and I think we're finding it.
Do
So
you ever get into situations where you have a spat over who gets to be the funny one and who gets to be the straight man?
yes. I am, and undoubtedly I'm always the straight man, and that's fine. I'm happy to play the straight man. But there are times where it'll be a fight to who gets to the punchline first if it's a shared story. and we're both very competitive in that way.
Right,
So,
right. I can
but he's
imagine.
yeah,
But it
but
must
he's
be,
louder.
that must add a lot of playfulness to your relationship, which must be very special.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. No, and I think I realized too that or we've realized, as a part of doing this, is like these are not only roles that we play in our lives, but they were roles we played for her, for our daughter. You know, it was how we would entertain her, and that's kind of been the interesting thing to become aware of is. So we do one act as a vaudeville act, and maybe this is our act, and then there's a country and western act, and then there's a Nichols and May kind of 1950s nightclub comedy act, and then there's a big Fred and Ginger dance number, and but all of these things are very much aimed towards parenting,
Hmm,
and
hmm.
so you know the country and western songs, it's all about funny bedtime stories, and um, the scenes for the Nichols and May section are all it's a variety of different dates at different ages, and all the different ages have something to do with either being the kid who goes away or being the grandparent or parent who sends them away.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and so it's been interesting to realize that it's like we don't just do this on stage; we do this in our lives for the people that we love. You know.
Yeah. Well, I love that you mentioned so much little tidbits of history there, starting from
Yeah.
vaudeville and just really honoring the tradition that is comedy. And of course, vaudeville is kind of like what brings us all together. Like me
Yeah.
as a musical theater person, we come from vaudeville, comedy
Yeah.
comes from vaudeville. It's a very special thing.
It
And
is.
we can go back just less than 100 years and we're all connected.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I'm a huge, huge, huge comedy history nerd. And my great grandfather was a vaudevillian. And so I have
Wow.
all of his old joke books and sheet music and
My goodness.
all of this. Yeah, I could nerd out for a really long time
Where did
about
he
vaudeville.
perform primarily? Where was he based?
Chicago. He was a
Wow.
Chicago, and so he was sort of a small-time vaudeville in Chicago for a while, and made his name mostly on the radio, where he was known as Big Bill Child's radio's gift to the ladies. And he, like you, had an amazing voice, and you know, a lot of the sheet music I have of his, it has little letters either from a composer saying, "Will you please sing this on the air?" or
Wow.
like long distance dedications of like, "My wife and I, it's our anniversary. Will you sing this and dedicate it to
Wow.
us?" So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. So
Uh,
it's pretty
that's so
awesome.
special.
Yeah.
Was your family surprised that you followed the path you did, or was it kind of expected coming from those roots?
I don't know. I don't know. My dad's a pastor, and so having faith in something that you can't quite put your fingers on, like theater and a
Yeah,
career in there, was
sure.
something that was that we. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people were they were surprised as much as, in many ways, I think it just made sense, and they went kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, it figures. Go ahead.
Well, and also a pastor, you're getting up in front of people and
Yeah.
in a sense, performing and
Yes.
providing an experience.
No,
Yeah.
indeed. A friend of mine is a rabbi, and his father was in comedy. And he was like, you know, my dad didn't want me to go into the business, so I went into, you know, I went into religion. And I said, yeah, my dad didn't want me to go into the business, so I went into comedy. So there we
That's
are.
so funny. I love that. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I will definitely tune in and see your show. So where can we see it?
It's all on our website, 1812productions.org. There's info there about how to watch, and then there's also other fun, you know, pandemic humor stuff that you can find by poking around on there too. So
You love pandemic humor. Yeah, yeah. I just am always struck by how we have had to turn to humor, even it's such a dark time and so difficult and so many challenges and such great loss. But there is always humor, there's music, there's
yeah,
connection, there's laughter,
yeah,
and how close laughter and tears are to each other,
yeah.
really.
They
Yeah.
use a lot of the same muscles.
Yes, yes. Well, fabulous. Can I ask you some silly questions?
Oh, please.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Zodiac sign.
Virgo.
Favorite ice cream.
Oh, chocolate peanut butter.
Coffee or tea.
Coffee.
Dream vacation spot.
worldwide tour for a year.
Oh, I love it. Okay, have you ever been to an opera?
I have a very long time ago.
What was the first opera you saw?
I don't remember. I remember the one thing that I remember about opera is that I love that Gianni Schicchi.
Oh, Mia Babylina.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, Puccini, we love him. What's your favorite musical ever?
Old school, I gotta go Music Man.
You got trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I'm only mad at Music Man because it beat West Side Story for the Tony the year it came out. And I think that's...
And West Side Story is definitely up there, but I don't know, something about that pick a little, talk a little, what do you talk,
Yep.
the way that they use the rhythm along with the music is really...
It's fabulous, yeah. Yeah. Okay, you can have an entire weekend away with anyone that's ever lived. Who is it?
Wow. Gosh, that's so hard. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is like Martin Luther King Jr. and a long hike, a lot of long hiking.
Yeah.
And maybe some drinking.
Sounds, like an epic adventure.
Yeah.
All right, a couple tough ones. You can go back in time to any moment in your life and tell your younger self in that moment one thing.
I would go back to ballet class when I was 6 and was not able to leap or get off the ground. And I would tell my younger self that not to worry, this is going to be the beginning of a great solo show you will make someday, and people will laugh and love it, and nobody will care that you're not a ballerina.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think I saw that title in your bio.
Yes.
What is the title of that show?
It's called Why I'm Scared of Dance.
Got it. And the final question, what is the meaning of life?
Joy and yes.
I like it. Yeah, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for coming on, for your time, and I hope you just have an extraordinary run of your new piece, and we can stream it worldwide at 1812productions.org.
ORG, yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Zach. This has been so much fun, and I just thank you.
My pleasure.
You made my day.
Meet you.
You too. Take care.
That's all for today's episode. Puppies and rainbows till we meet again.